Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Kansas. All right. So, you know how you go out and prepare a whole presentation and then right before you start, something whispers in your ear? Well, that's what happened. I prepared this wonderful presentation, slideshow, moving pictures and stuff. And then this morning I woke up and a voice spoke to in my ear and said, "You need to talk about something different." Then I came down and I met some of your wonderful leaders here and they started talking to me about the history of organizing in Kansas. They said, "You need to talk about something different." So here's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about returning you to your roots of organizing. And how organizing is, was, and always must be part of what you do here in Kansas. That's what we're really going to talk about today. That's all we're going to talk about. It is what you do. It is who you are. It is what your grandparents did. It is what we must do in order to save America, save Kansas, and to some degree, even be able to save this world we're in. That's what we're going to talk about. But before we do that, we got to do what we always do, is to introduce ourselves. You know, the human spirit needs to be seen and heard. So everybody up, push your chairs in. You can't have a gathering without saying hello to people. Push your chairs in. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to give you about 3 minutes or so. I'm going to ring my bell to start us off. I'll ring my bell to stop. And you're just going to say good morning to as many people as you possibly can in the next 2-3 minutes. You ready? All right. All right. Here we go. Next one. You're going to find 2 people and just answer this one simple question in less than 2 minutes. How was your journey here today? Now, it's not a triad. 3 different people. It's one person. My name is David Hunt. How was my journey here today? And you go to another person. So it's not a triad. It's 2 different people. People who you don't know. You ready? 2 minutes. 2 different people spread out. Let's do it. Here we go. Next one. 2 different people. 2 minutes. What's the gift you bring here today? What's the gift you bring? 2 different people, 2 minutes. You gotta make sure you do 2 people that you don't know. It's okay, nice people. You ready? Yeah. Wasn't that fun? Yeah. Wasn't that fun? How can we be a community if we don't first say, "I see you. I see you. Thank you for being here." So we gotta begin with a little reading for the morning. A little reading, a little story. This is from a Celtic mystic, John O'Donohue, and it's a morning call, a morning lesson. It starts like this: somewhere out at the edge, the night is turning, and the waves of darkness begin to brighten the shores of dawn. The heavy dark falls back to earth, and the free air goes wild with light. The heart fills with fresh, bright breath, and the thoughts stir to give birth to color. We arise today in the name of silence, womb of word. In the name of stillness, the home of belonging. In the name of solitude, of the soul and of the earth. We arise today, blessed by all things, the wings of breath, the light of eyes, wonder of whisper, intimacy of touch, eternity of soul, the urgency of thought, miracle of health, and most importantly, the embrace of God. May we live this day compassionate of our hearts, gentle in our words, gracious in our awareness, courageous in our thoughts, and most importantly, generous in love. Isn't that sweet? Yeah. So, we're going to talk a little about organizing today, but I think I should probably start a little bit about who I am. So I go around the world and I help do what we call organizing. I'm a community builder, and part of what I do is do organizing. So let me tell you a little bit about my family. This is my mom, just turned 90 a few weeks ago. And this was her 2nd book, Sharing God's Blessing. That's me with my 6 brothers and sisters. That's us at a family reunion a number of years ago in Ohio, hanging out. My parents are originally from Cincinnati, Ohio. That's the blank thing there. That's me when I was 6. That's me, my daughter Sojourner. She loved me then. She's 16 now, won't talk to me. That's okay. That's us in Belize studying storytelling there, and that's us in Cuba studying how to use storytelling there. And took her to Senegal and how they study story and storytelling and organizing there. Still doesn't talk to me. That's me and my wife who's from New Zealand. That's my daughter with the First Lady, Miss Bush. That's me, President Clinton, asking for a job that worked out for a little bit. And that's me and my dad at one of my weddings, but that's a different story. And that's my mom, Eunice, at 65, graduating from Temple University with a master's degree. I use story and storytelling to help heal people, to help build a sense of community and organizing. And the word community, by the way, is a very powerful word, and I feel it here already, quite frankly. We oftentimes say we want a better Kansas community, a better Wichita community, a better Catholic community, a better community in this part of town, right? We always use this word community. And we use it almost as much as we use the word love, and pretty much don't know what that means either. What we're really saying is we want to be in better relationship with each other. That's what we say when we say we want a better community. But to be in a better relationship, there's actually a formula in that word, community, that teaches you how to be in better relationship. The beginning of the word is the word common. If you really want to be in a better relationship with people, you got to create safe and sometimes sacred space to take off these heavy masks we wear all the time and say, let me tell you who I really am. Let me tell you about my hopes, my fears, my dreams, my desires. How life has wounded me and I'm struggling to overcome those wounds either today. Let me tell you my dreams for me, my people, my family. And you only do that through story. It is absolutely, totally impossible to build meaningful, healthy relationships without creating safe, constant space for people to tell story. So this afternoon, or after session, I'm going to be doing a session around the role and power of storytelling, so you can come back for that. The second part of the word community is the word unity. And it's fascinating too. This word community, by the way, is a word the Greeks stole from the Egyptians who borrowed it from the people called the Nubians. So the second part of the word is the word unity. It's not like the unity which we do when we organize, like we will get our people together and throw this person out of office and put my cousin into office. Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe not your cousin, but somebody we like in office. And then after that, we'll get ourselves together, get some more money from somebody to do this or that. Right? But then after we win or lose, we go back home. That's called building an army. That's not this word unity here. The word unity here comes from one concept and one concept alone. How is this next thing we say and or do going to help us build the connectedness between us? For the twin-headed dragon that plagues us, of greed and ignorance, will return. So we don't want short-term wins. We want to do things that help us build our relationships, our connection to each other. In the middle of the word community is the word commune, which means how do we have a good doggone time along the way? How do we sing and dance and spin around and do poetry and make love and pray and dance in the street? How do we have a good time? Because who wants to be in a relationship with people who never have a good time? And so, what I do is I go around the world and in this country, helping people to take off their masks and share who they are, their hopes, their fears, their dreams through story. And also help people do organizing. So this morning we're going to talk a lot about organizing. How do we come together and to be a unified force in order to bring about good in Kansas and in the world? So that's what we'll talk about. Later this afternoon or the next session I'll talk a little bit about story. But having said that, let me start with a story. Because I saw this saying about feeding the world, Kansas, feeding the world, Kansas. But first we got to feed ourselves. Look, tell a quick story here. There was this spirit that was getting ready to pass from one existence to another existence, or as we say in this country, die. And it was kind of a feisty spirit. Actually, I've met some of your leaders today, and it kind of reminded me of that sort of spirit. They don't let people just tell them where to go. They go, no, I'm telling you where I'm going to go. They don't know, where you want me to go? I'll follow you. No, they're not like that in this room for some strange reason. I like that. Anyway, so when the angel of death came down and said, okay, it's time for you to go, the spirit said, well, hold up. Before you take me someplace, I want to have a say-so in this. Angel of death said, well, people usually don't ask this, but okay, what do you want to do? So the spirit said, you know what? First thing I want to do is I want to go check out this place called hell. Because I've heard some interesting things about it. So the spirit was taken high in the mountains, high above the clouds, way up to this beautiful castle, led down a hallway with beautiful tapestries on both sides, and led through this beautiful golden door into this banquet hall. With a long golden table with food piled high in the sky, everything you wanted right there. Well, the spirit said, this is hell? That looked too bad to me. But when the spirits looked around the table, all the spirits around the table were thin and gaunt with the skin falling off their faces. And you look closely, they had braces on their arms. And even though they could reach out and grab anything they wanted to eat, anything they wanted, try as hard as they could, they couldn't eat it. Oh, said the spirit, this is indeed hell. They had everything you want right there before you, to be able to hold it in your hands, but not be able to taste it. This is indeed hell. Take me from this hell. Take me to heaven. Well, a side door opened up, and the spirit was led past a golden door into a banquet hall with a beautiful golden table, with food piled high in the sky, everything you wanted. When the spirit looked at the spirits around this table, they were all fat and well-fed and laughing and telling jokes and stories. When you look closer, he realized that they too had braces on their arms. Everybody reach out. Everyone reach out, reach out, reach out, reach out. But they used the braces on their arms to feed one another. We live in a country where there should be no one hungry. There is no reason in this country why 1 out of 4 children go to bed hungry, while there's rampant obesity, while there's starvation. There's no reason. How will we take our people who are wounded, all of us, life is a wounding thing. How will we figure out how to use our woundedness to help feed one another? How will we go on this journey to defeat this twin-headed dragon of greed and ignorance? When I go around the country and ask people, why do we not feed everyone in America? They all pretty much come to the same reason: greed. We have the intellectual capacity. We have the care for our neighbors. We have the heart. We have the soul. We have the land. We have the air. We have the water. It is greed. Simple as that. And oftentimes I say greed and ignorance. I'm not talking about the people, the masses, not the ignorance of the masses. It's the ignorance of the persons or people who are so greedy, who have so much money. I'm not talking about $8 billion. I'm not even talking about $5 billion. Those are poor people. I'm talking about people who have hundreds of billions of dollars. Captains of industry who have billions and billions of dollars. This is what we're talking about here. Whose children, whose grandchildren's grandchildren's grandchildren will never go for want, but will still allow starvation to happen in this country simply out of greed and lack of compassion and caring and kindness for other human beings. That is what we are up against. That is what our world is facing right now. The huge migrations you see, most of the people fleeing because there's lack of food as well. We are in a desperate battle to save this thing called humanity. That's what we're up against. There is no reason whatsoever for this except for greed. Organizing, the roots of it is in America. I know, you've been told to be scared of organizing. It's something that crazy people do, that radicals, that liberals, that Democrats, all sorts of labels that people do. No, my friends, it is what Americans do. It is what we have in our Constitution. In our Constitution, when they first built it, it's boring by the way, who has read the Constitution from beginning to end? Boring, boring, boring. You know, here's what the president should do, here's what the Congress should do. It's boring. And when they finished that first part, they got together and said, wait a minute, that's all nice about how the structure of the government, but what about the soul of the people? What about the soul of the people? So they put the first change, the First Amendment. And the First Amendment, most people know about it, you know, the freedom of religion, the freedom of speech, the freedom of media. But what most people don't know, which is in our Constitution, there's only in 8 constitutions in the world, is the right of the people to peaceably assemble and petition their government for regress. That is what we have a right to do. It was the first right put in there. Not a secondary thought, not a fifth thought. How will the people of this society be able to come together and say to their government, those people representing them, here's what we want you to do. This is fundamental to being American, and it's what's being taken away from us today. You have no choice. You have absolutely no choice but to organize and to return to the roots of your ancestors. Why do women have the right to vote? People organize to do that. Why could, I mean, it's a simple question to ask people, why could women not be a lawyer 100 years ago? Anybody? Tell me the reason why they said you could not be a lawyer if you're a woman.
Because you were a woman.
Say what?
Because you were a woman.
Because you were a woman. What was it about women that made them incapable of dealing with the law and being or being a lawyer or sitting or being a jury? What was it? What, you're pointing to your head. What is it?
They couldn't think.
They couldn't think. What else? What? What? What else was it?
Too emotional.
They had to raise the kids. They were too emotional, right? This was the concept of the time. It was a lie. It was a story. People bought it, right? And so women had to rise up and go, yeah, I can raise my children. I can work on the farm. I can do all sorts of things. But I damn sure can think too. And I can vote. And I can be a lawyer. It was a stupid concept that people believed and functioned under. But women had to organize, not just here, but around the world, in order to get just the right to vote. It's part of what we do in this country. Being able to say, yeah, we're going to organize our labor, to make sure that we have an organized voice with the owners of the company. People had to organize to get that. Right? To be able to say, yes, everybody in this country, regardless of their skin complexion, the way the skin bounces off your sun, regardless of the stupid lie story they told us that there is such a thing called race, we have to get together. We'll deal with that question later on about race. And check this out. I go all around the world talking about it, and I create safe space for us to talk about it. So don't be scared. With no blame, no shame, no guilt, no nothing like that will happen in this room. We will actually, later on in talk about storytelling, we will deconstruct this lie called race. But anyway, so people had to organize to say, yes, everyone in America should have the right to vote. Right? People had to organize. Farm workers had to organize. Say, well, farm workers should also have a right. People organized. They had to fight for it. It was part of being an American. Right? People had to say, yes, okay, I'm gay. I have the rights to know at least to be able to walk down the street without being beat up by the police. People had to organize to do that. Right? There's people organizing today. There was the Occupy Wall Street a few years ago. There's the Black Lives Matter happening right now, as well as a variety of other campaigns that people are doing. This is wonderful that you can do this in America without people coming down the street and beating you and shooting you and throwing you in jail and torturing you. It is part of what we do, but they're telling you don't do it. That's not what we do here in Kansas. That's not what we do as conservatives. That's not what we do as religious people. That's not what we do. They're telling you that to take away your rights of Americans. You must return to your roots, because Kansans have always organized. Roosevelt didn't wake up one day and say, I think I will end child labor. I think that, 8-hour work week is a good idea. He didn't wake up one day and say, oh yeah, the right to organize for Social Security. He didn't wake up one day and just say that. Hundreds of thousands of people, millions of people were organizing to make sure that he did those things. You have those rights today. We have those rights today because your ancestors mobilized, organized, spoke up in order to give you those things and to give it to your children and your grandchildren. And people today are organizing to take that away from you. You have no choice. Your children come out of college with a $100,000 debt. That is not the way that it used to be. Anyone in this room who's over 50 would tell you they went to school for almost nothing. You go talk to people around the developed world, they would say, why? My wife came here from New Zealand and said, David, why is your son marrying somebody who has $80,000 debt? I said, because he has $80,000 debt. They're equal. They both went to school in South Dakota for a bachelor's degree. Now they want to stay in my house. I don't want them in my house. I love them, but they should move. They can't move. They're broke. Why? Someone came along and told them, we'll give you a loan at the age of 18 to send you to school. And by the way, it'll be compounded daily. By the time you get out of school, don't worry, you have a nice job and you'll be paid for it. And then someone gave them a mortgage. Said, oh, by the way, don't worry, your mortgage will be fine. We have a balloon payment. You'll be fine in 10 years. Now they're broke. Not just my children. It's children throughout America. Greed. Kennedy didn't wake up one morning, and Johnson didn't wake up one morning and say, we're going to work on civil rights, we're going to work on clean air, clean water. People push for those things. People organize for those things. Medicare, Medicaid, they didn't wake up one day and say, let's do it. People fought for those things. And now people are fighting to take those things away. This is what we do. This is what we do. So a little bit about the definition of organizing. Organizing is about power. Now, here's the thing. Most people are afraid of power. Well, what's the most common thing people say when you say power? What's the saying that comes to mind? What's the saying that most comes to mind when people say power? What do you say? Control. Drugs? Or corruption? Power corrupts, and after power corrupts, absolutely, right? That's a big thing. People always say, you don't want power. It's bad for you. It corrupts you. Let me have it. I'm good. Then we give it to them. My friends, people have power over every aspect of your life. What we breathe in the air. Human beings make a decision. How much taxes we pay. We have the power over that. The dye in women's hair that might even cause cancer. People have a decision over that. What your children will learn in school. Whether your children will be able to go to school. Whether you have a job or whether you export your job to some other country. We even have the right to have water. Who owns the seeds? Power. They have it over us. And we give it away because we are afraid to have our own power. We have no choice. We're at a terrible crossroads. Either we own this country or we don't. Either we say, yes, we're going to take some say so in the lives of our children, of our parents, or we give it away. That's what power really is. And we need to be able to understand it and start to take control. Oops. And start to take control. Start. Who turned it off? There you go. And start to take control. Oops, I had the power back. Turn him off. Now. In democracy, there's two types of power, right? There's organized people and it's organized money. And right now, my friends, organized money is winning. For some reason, someone came along and said that money is speech, and that I can come with my $5 billion and buy off everybody in Kansas. Not everybody, just a few elected people in Kansas. And that's it. Not just in Kansas, but in North Carolina, and in Illinois, wherever. Somebody can come along and just buy off from elected officials. That is where we are. That's what we're facing. And so organized people is the only other thing that actually takes place. But that's even losing out right now. We'll find out in the next 2 to 3 years whether this experiment called democracy, which is not that old, will survive or not. And the only way it will survive is if you, people in this room, your friends, your neighbors, start owning your own power, using your own voice, using your own brain, using your own courage to go out and start speaking about what you need, even to your friends and to those people who say they don't believe in what you believe in. We have to do it. They are telling us to be afraid of each other all the time. See the way the sun bounces off his skin? Don't be with him. See that language you're speaking? Don't be with them. See the way the body curves? Don't be with them. Everything that we see in our culture pretty much yells, be afraid. Almost every program. My wife is from New Zealand. She said, before she left me to go back, she said, that's a joke, she did go back. She'll be back though. She'll come back. She promised she'll be back. She did. 2 years ago. But anyway, she said, David, why do people have guns and are shooting each other all the time? She said, and why is every program here on television pretty much all guns and drugs that will kill you on television or commercial? But anyway, I said, well, that's the way it is. She says, no, I live in a country where the police officers don't have guns. I've lived in 5 countries where most people don't have guns. She said, David, why? She said, she went to get a drug test. She came back and said that the bill is $2,500 for my drug test. She said, I had cancer. It cost me $450. Why do people in America not have health care? And why is your son and daughter-in-law still living here? Greed. Because we've given up those things. People have come along and told us to be afraid of each other. Skin, gender, religion. I'm a Democrat, be scared of me. I'm a Republican, be scared of me. Just divided us on all these crazy things. When all of us are suffering. All of us are suffering. Yesterday I got on a plane, and I was sitting down, and I said, yes, these 2 seats are going to be mine. And a lady and her son come running down the house and said, oh, they're going to sit beside me, they're going to sit beside me, don't sit beside me, don't sit beside me. They sat beside me. So you know, you got to be polite. How are you? I'm fine. Where are you going? I'm going to Kansas. I'm going to Kansas too. What are you going to do? Oh, my father, she said, her lady said that her husband's father had passed away. They're going to a funeral. I said, okay. So what are you going to do? I'm going to go to talk at a conference about, to farmers about, farm stuff. She goes, oh, are you going to talk about GMOs? I hate that. And what about those seeds? How do people get a chance to own seeds? And let me tell you, that she says, I was depressed for 4 years. I was on depressant drugs. I was on all sorts of drugs. And finally, I just prayed to God to help me. And I threw those pills away, and I went and saw an herbalist. And I went to the herbalist and sent me to see a nutritionist. The nutritionist told me to stop eating the things I was eating. And I looked at my daughter and found out that she was sick all the time too. And I took her, not to the doctors who couldn't find anything, but to the herbalist, the nutritionist. And they said that she was eating the wrong thing. And my son, and my husband, who can't get on this plane because he's too big, he's obese. And because he's eating the wrong things and can't stop. But I can't hang out with the people you're talking about because I'm a conservative. I said, well, why did you just tell me you're a conservative? What's that got to do with what you just said about your family suffering from bad food? Because, because other people fight for those sort of things. That's what they have us believing. That because some label you put yourself as progressive, conservative, liberal, Democrat, Republican, that we can't unite. Food cuts across all those labels. Your issue, your work, your vision, your calling, cuts across all those things. There are very few issues in America that cuts across all those. Urban, rural, doesn't matter. Food. And every day, there's some new stuff about how we're killing ourselves based upon the food that people are forcing down our throats in massive amounts. It's not good for us. You are our answer. You are that voice. I grew up in the city. I wouldn't know the difference between some of those seeds, like most people. You know what needs to be done. If you don't lead us, we will fail. We will fail. In order to do that, you have to seize your power. You have to organize. What about organizing? Public policy. And see, people get scared about public. I'm not a policy maker. I don't know about public policy. I don't have a PhD from the University of Kansas School of Science and Scientology. Not Scientology, it's some different school. You know, what are those schools? Agriculture schools, you know what I'm saying? But all policy is a Greek word. Policy is a Greek word. It means behavior. Anytime someone says policy, you immediately say in your mind, behavior. We're going to create a new policy, create a new behavior. Our policies must change. Our behavior must change. Let's get together and have a policy discussion. Let's get together and have a behavior discussion. My new policy will change things. My new behavior. Policy is behavior. That's all it means. Public policy is public behavior. That's what we're trying to change. It's behavior. And where does it come from? Policy comes from our behavior changes, come from our hopes, our dreams, our desires, based upon what's happened to us in the past, about our dreams for the future. And the way we share with people our hopes, our dreams for this new change we want is through sharing our voice in our stories. Through sharing our voice in our stories. You have the stories. You have the voice. Don't let anyone take it away. We need it. You must be at the table. And by the way, don't get invited to have a seat at a table. That means 2 of you can come, while the rest of them have 40 people. You want to create your own table to invite people to come and hear your ideas about how to change the behavior of agriculture in this state and in this country. You want to be able to bring your people to the table and not just satisfied being a person at the table. Something quickly to think about too, by the way. Oftentimes we go talk to elected officials, we think it's just us and the elected official, but it's actually more than 2 people at the table. It's you, the elected official, and the other person who's going to walk in the door behind you with a different set of demands, requirements, vision. And they may walk in the room with a suitcase full of money and with pictures of people doing things they probably shouldn't have been doing in other countries. You know, some way of inspiring them to do what they want them to do. So always remember, it's not just about you and that particular elected official. You got to understand there's power on the other side. And that's where we miss the point. We think if we just go and tell the right stories and produce the right documents and be right, if we're morally right, if we're intellectually right, if we're spiritually right, we will win. If that was the case, and I really swear, I wish that was the case, we would be in a much better situation. But that's not the case. You must organize. You must learn to build power. Talk to your friends, your neighbors, people you work with about the need to change the behavior. And you must do it systematically and constantly. I was in this leadership program a number of years ago from the Kellogg Foundation, and every year they gave you money and said, go anywhere you want, study. I was studying storytelling. They said, go study anywhere you want. But once a year, we're going to take you someplace to help educate you. And they took us some really cool places around the world, too. I'm like, cool places. Then they came and said, we're going to take you to Nebraska. Hey, don't be hitting on Nebraska. There, see, a couple of Nebraskans are in the room, so don't be hitting on Nebraskans. But I'm saying, I'm a city boy. They're not going to like me. I'm not going to like them. I don't know anything about them. They don't know anything about me. I heard about them. And it was true. And I got there, and we were driving down the road in this bus, and I said, oh, it's a cornfield. I said, yeah. I said, where's the corn? It's right there. I said, where? Stop the bus and come into the field. Let me show you. Rip it back. Oh, there's no can here. No, that's cool. What's that big machine there? That's the harvester. What's they doing? It's situated. We drive you around. Drove around. I was like, this is really cool. Then they said, you know, you got to stay with some of these families for 2 weeks in your house. And I'm not staying with these people. Absolutely, totally fell in love. That's a cool swimming pool. We built that ourselves. And by the way, we're going to help build an extension to the school over here. There was a fire down the road, and we're going to help rebuild that spot. It wasn't even a conversation. It was just what people did. Real sense of community. There. Part of the nature, part of the DNA of the people. They were organizing to help each other. It is what we do. The most beautiful thing about organizing, quite frankly, is to give people a sense of themselves, a sense of their voice. So you must learn to become organizers in order to bring back a sense of voice. to people here in Kansas. Remember this morning I was telling you that voice came whispered in my ear? You know what it said to me? You're in Kansas. You got to talk about the Wizard of Oz. I know, you're tired of it. You're tired of it. That's okay. It's a different version of the Wizard of Oz. Because actually, it is a magical organizing journey story. You know, I won't even go through all the details. You know, you probably turn it off when it comes to television, don't you? Damn, Kansas story again. No, but the wonderful thing about it is, there's poor Dorothy, you know, and she's living her child's life, wonderful child's life. You know, she has her favorite thing, her dog, and the dog is running around. The evil person on the street takes control of her dog. Her family must bow down to this evil person. We won't say that it was the people who actually controlled agriculture in Kansas. We won't say that. We'll just say that she was an evil person. And then her family couldn't defend her and her dog, and the storm comes along, and she gets blown away, and she lands, and she commits involuntary manslaughter. Bam! Killed the witch. And she comes out and says, oh, where am I? I killed the witch. And all of a sudden people come out and look and say, yeah, I think she's dead. They go send some doctors to look. Yes, we proclaim she's dead. Remember that? We proclaim she's dead. They all start partying. Ding dong, the wicked dancing. Party, party, party. Yeah, they party. They all singing and dancing. All of a sudden her sister shows up. Boom! Everybody runs like hell. This is symbolic of what happens. Sometimes we put people in leadership hoping they will save us. And then the opposition shows up and we all run and hide. And she's out there saying, I don't want you. Who killed my sister? I did a mistake. I didn't mean to become the leader. Well, you are. So then Good Witch Glinda shows up. Takes the red slippers off the dead sister. Puts them on Dorothy. Dorothy didn't ask for that. She put Dorothy in harm's way. An evil force, more powerful than her, is now after her. He said, I'm going to get you, my little pretty. And she goes, and Good Witch Glinda goes, please, and takes off. Bye, leaves her. She goes, well, how am I going to get back home? And then people come out and start partying. Well, here's the good part. She says, well, she goes see the wizard. He says, why? Because. And they pause. Because they don't know. Oh, because of the wonderful things he does. And she, what does he do? They keep saying, because. They don't know. They have no idea where they're sending her to or why. They do know how. How am I going to get there? Follow the old road. They go, they follow. And they all just lead her to the end of town, but they don't go with her. They get them down and stop. Send her on a journey by herself, her and her dog. Right? This happens lots of times to our people. They're sent on a journey, unprepared, to go someplace, unaware of where they're actually going to get there, but with promises. And people just send them on their own. So she goes down the road, and the first person she meets is the, who she meet first? Scarecrow. He's in a bad situation. He's sitting there, birds are plucking in his head. It's terrible. And she frees him up, and he says, well, so what do you want? He says, I wish I had a brain. I wish I had a brain. That's our people. Told that they're not smart enough to figure out how to grow proper foods to feed their neighbors, to feed themselves. We'll tell you what to grow, when to grow, how to grow it. You're not smart enough. We have scientists. So she says, what do you want? So, well, come with me. I'm going to see the wizard. So why? Because she doesn't know. Because of the wonderful things he does. And it's okay, they go down the road, they're singing. And they get down, they meet my boy, the Tin Man. Now, in his situation, he's just frozen. And they got to boil him. What was it? Anybody remember what the first thing they boiled on the Tin Man's? His what? His mouth. Voice. If you want to crush people, the first thing you do is take away their voice. Stop speaking your language. You're not old enough to speak. Take away their voice. Symbolic of how our people's voices have been taken away. So then he says, where are we going? Go see the wizard. Why? Because we don't know, but follow us anyway. They dance on down the road, and they finally get to my main man, the lion. Now remember, the lion comes out, wow, kick your ass, kick your butt. He's chasing around. You know, they're running around, and finally he starts to corner the poor little dog. And Dorothy, who's hiding behind a tree, comes out and punches him in the nose. He turns from a big cat into a little pussycat. Oh, sorry. Two things. First of all, that was symbolic of women's power. They might take some abuse. But you start messing with their children or someone else who's less powerful, they will rise up. Not in defense of themselves often, but in defense of the weakest. So she rises up, punches him in the nose, he becomes a wussy and says, well, I wish I had some courage. He said, well, follow us, and I'll go marching off. Follow. I'll skip the part where like those flying things come down and rip them up and throw them by. That scares me, so I don't want to talk about that part. I turn that part off the TV. I have to tell my daughter, don't look at it. You're 16, it's too scary. Don't look at that part. What do you mean you just went to an R-rated movie with your boyfriend? Anyway, sorry, back to that story. Anyway, so they go, and finally, the point I want to get to is they get to Oz, they knock on the door, oh no, they ring the doorbell, and the guy sticks his head out, who rung the doorbell? He says, we did. He said, don't you see the sign? The doorbell's broke. There's no sign out here. And he goes back in, he puts the sign there. Knock. So they knock, boom. He comes like, who is it? They go, what the hell do you mean, who is it? It's us. So what do you want? So I want to see the wizard. So, you can't see the wizard. I have never seen the wizard. Gatekeepers. People who won't let you get the power, won't let you get close to what you need because they want to control it. You know such people like that in your community. You know such people like that in government. You know such people like that. Gatekeepers. And right now, by the way, the wicked witch is flying around. She's getting ready to come in for the kill shock, right? So finally, the scarecrow goes, wait a minute. She has the red slippers. Doorman looks like, oh, that's of course of a different color. She has something we call self-interest. She has something now that says, oh, now you are of value to us. We will let you die, but now we see you have something of value to us. We'll let you come in. They come in, of course, they go over and they go see the wizard. He's boom, bam, bam. You know what happens. He says, boom, bam, oh, go off and leave me and go and get the witch's broom. And what's the last damn thing that witch going to give up? She's not giving up her broom. If you watch the next scene, by the way, they're going through the woods and they have a broken down gun and a broken down knife and they're going through the woods. He sends them on a death march to be killed. How often I see that? We send people out, you go talk to the powerful people, get what we want. Unprepared, no strategy, no power, goes out. Anyway, they get there and you know what happens? She tortures poor Dorothy, shows her stuff home and tortures them all and gets to the end and she's getting ready to light the scarecrow on fire. And again, Dorothy now has not broken. It is when she is defending the scarecrow, she comes out and throws the water and the witch melts. And then funny thing happens. I forgot what she says. You destroyed my pretty wickedness, something like that. She drops. And all the people who surrounded the wicked witch says, let's bow down. Hail Dorothy, our new queen. This symbolized people who have been oppressed so long that they don't even know how to rise up. It was more of them than her and her friends. But they bow down right away because they've been used to being oppressed. That's how we are. We bow down right away. And she says, no, I don't want that. All I want is the broom. They say, oh, here you go. So they go back. They go back to see the wizard. Boom, bam, how dare you come back? All that says, of course, the dog revealed he's nothing. So he comes out and he says a couple of interesting things. First thing he says, hey, hold up. I'm just like you. I just showed up one day. My balloon blew me here, and these people made me their leader. It happens lots of times. People just blow in here. We elect him to be our leader. A little bit of this and that, he tells us, we make him our leader. Anyway, he says, well, he said, well, you take Dorothy home? Sure, I'll take Dorothy home. But then the wizard said, here's the most important part at the end here. He goes up to first the scarecrow. He says, scarecrow, you're pretty smart. If you think about it, you were the brains of this operation, which is true. If you look at the story, the scarecrow was one to figure everything out. He says, the only thing you're missing is something to get people back home. And he goes in his trunk and he pulls out a diploma. Here's a diploma. The scarecrow goes, oh, 2 to the power of 4, yes. All he did was affirm what the scarecrow already had in him. And then he goes over to the lion. The lion goes, I want some courage. He says, my friend, be careful. There's a difference between knowing when to fight and when not to fight. Because there's some battles you can't win. He said, but the only thing you're missing is something we do every once a year. We bring our people out who once were warriors and we parade them around town. And he gives them like the Legionnaire badge. He goes, yes. This still is true. There are times your ancestors won organizing battles here in Kansas and for people in America, but we've forgotten. And so sometimes we take people out. Said Veterans Day. I'm going to speak tomorrow at the Veterans Organization in North Carolina. We need to bring people out and parade them around to remember once upon a time they too were warriors. Once upon a time we too were warriors. Yes, we can rise up and fight the twin-headed dragon. We forgot the own victories of our ancestors, of your grandparents, and their struggles to win. Then he goes to the scarecrow, to the Tin Man. He says, my friend, you want a heart, but be careful because it breaks so easy and so often. And he gives him a clock. To keep time when his heart's going to break. So then he goes, it's okay, I'm going to take Dorothy home. Of course, something happens, the balloon flies away, and I can't. Oh, by the way, before he leaves, he turns to them and says, I'm leaving you 3 in charge. There was no vote. There was no consensus. There was no asking anybody. He just said, I'm leaving you in charge. Again, bad dictatorial leadership where people say, I will now appoint the next leader over my people, over your people. Anyway, the balloon flies away and Dorothy's crying, and then here it happens. Ooh, good witch Clinton shows up. Says, I want to go home. She says, oh, my dear, you could have gone home any time you wanted. And Dorothy says, she ties back her hair, takes off her earrings, I'm going to knock you out. Oh, I'm sorry, that's what my sisters would have said. Dorothy goes, what you mean? She says, why didn't you tell me that? She said, you needed this journey. You needed to be on this journey so you could discover your own power, your own gifts, your own talents. And you need to be with these folks here. so they can discover their own gifts and talents, and then Dorothy goes back home. And that's kind of what organizing is all about, my friends, is how do we go on a journey? Take our people on a journey where they get a sense of their own voice back to them, where they get a sense of their own intelligence, where they find the courage to stand up so their children and children's children will have a place in this place called America. Won't we do that sort of thing? Won't we become kind of like Dorothy's journey? I'll end with this reading called The Embrace of Community, because organizing fundamentally is about community building. Building relationships with people and saying, what are our shared hopes, dreams, desires, gifts, and talents? And how do we use those in such a way to make our life, to make Kansas better, so that we can begin to feed Kansas and feed the world? How do we do that? So this is from a lady named Sambo, who's so many. It's called The Embrace of Community. She's a ritualist, which we would call psychiatrist in Burkina Faso. It goes like this. It goes, the community is the spirit, the guiding light of the tribe, whereby people come together in order to fulfill a specific purpose, to help others fulfill their purpose, and simply to take care of one another. The goal of the community is to make sure that each member of the community is heard and is properly given the gifts that we each bring into this world. Without this giving, the community itself dies. And without the community, the individual is left without a place where he or she can contribute. And so, my friends, the community is this grounding place where people come together to share their gifts and receive from one another. When you don't have community, you don't have anyone to listen to you, and you don't have a place to go where you feel you really, truly belong, and you don't have people to affirm who you are and support you in bringing forth your gifts. What this does to a person's psyche is it disempowers their psyche, making them vulnerable to consumerism and all the things that comes along with that. It also leaves many people who have wonderful contributions to make, holding back their gifts, not knowing to put them. And this leaves a blockage inside, where people who have wonderful contributions to make are held up physically, mentally, and spiritually. They have a blockage. And they don't have a place to go to where they need to be seen and a home to go to. And so, my friends, the community is the spirit, this guiding light of the tribe, where people come together in order to fulfill a specific purpose, to help others fulfill their purpose, and simply, so simply, to take care of one another. Isn't that beautiful? That's what you already do. That's what organizing really does. It has nothing to do with a political label, a skin complexion, a religious background. How do we get together? Say, what is this brother's gift? What's that sister's gift? What's this sister's gift? What's that brother's gift? How do we help them see that gift? Because oftentimes we can't see our own gift. We are in a culture where people are rarely affirmed. We're always told about what we can't do. How do we hold the mirror and say, no, I see you. I see your gifts and talents. And how can we collectively go on a journey where people can develop their gifts and talents and contribute them back to the community so that they're whole and so we're whole as well. And that's what an organizing journey actually truly is really all about.